Good morning. So I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving break. We're going to start on a new history lesson today about gladiators and chariot races. So this is a pretty exciting part of entertainment that was in ancient Rome, even for people who are just commoners, the plebeians. They had this as a form of entertainment. Sadly, there are a lot of people who, as we're going to see, these gladiators were forced into fighting each other, fighting animals. So it definitely is something that, it's good that it's not around anymore. People also were forced to fight until one person died in this arena that we're going to talk about. So the chariot races as well could be quite dangerous, yet they were a form of entertainment for people. So let's take a look at the gladiators and chariot races, as well as the buildings that these were famous for housing. So moving over to our history book that is on Bright Thinker in your Ancient Rome folder for you to read anytime you want, especially like after this video if you wanted to see something again. Chapter 12. Now Linus gets lost. "It appears my grandson has a poor memory," said grandfather. "I told him not to go into the underground passageway, yet that is exactly where he has gone." Well, you can't blame him. That sounds pretty fun to go in an underground passageway. Lucia started down the passageway to the underground part of the Coliseum. She thought maybe she could help find Linus, even though she did not like the look of the dark passageway. Grandfather called her back. "No, Lucia, don't you go looking for your brother," he said. "I will speak to the commander of the sailors. We may need some help to find him down there. Until then, Linus can learn just how lost he can get. Perhaps it will help his poor memory." Grandfather turned to Nikos. Tell the commander of the sailors I want to see him." Look at this stadium. Looks like a place you might go to today to see, well, not today because of coronavirus, but a football game or a huge concert venue, right? House actually more than probably most arenas you've gone to. So as you can see, there's wild animals at the bottom. Many of them would have been brought from Africa, including these elephants and giraffes that you can see here. Some lions and bears. This is honestly what they brought in. People had to actually fight wild animals like lions right there in front of people's eyes. It was terrible. But it was the form of entertainment that they had. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? Maybe some of these animals end up just fighting each other. Now, Nikos began climbing the hundreds of steps to the top of the Coliseum. The senator took Lucia's hand and led her onto the sunlit floor of the Coliseum. "Lucia, I want you to understand how they built this great arena," said grandfather. "It is the finest in Rome. It has seating for 50,000 people. The round outside wall is built like an aqueduct with arches of stone stacked on each other. Arches also support the inside row of seats, which look like a giant oval stairway. As you can see here, it says an arena is an area surrounded by seating for the public where sports events are held. Still today, that's what we would call it. As you can see, here's the arches, just like the aqueducts and bridges had, which offered excellent support for these structures. And this is incredible that, especially at this time, they were able to construct something to hold this many people. And a lot of our arenas today would have been modeled after something kind of like this, where there were these narrow passageways, hallways for people to filter through and get straight to their seat. So there's not just one door over here for you to get all the way over here to your seat, for example. So really smart construction of the building as a whole. It was very solid, as you can see here. And it's going to get into this a little bit, but there's even shading and weather protection for some of the people in this arena as well. So really innovative. Now look all around the top of the arena. There are 1,000 sailors from the Roman Navy up there. They are waiting for the command to roll out the awning. The awning is a giant canvas roof that shades the seats from the sun. That's an awning. People have awnings even over like their porches. Now, there are many passageways under the floor of the arena. They connect dozens of chambers. Some of these rooms hold wild animals. Others are for the gladiators. One passageway connects the gladiator school to the arena. When it is time for a big gladiator fight, the gladiators are led out of one door and the animals out of another. Chamber is a small space or room. So as you can see here, under these arches are a bunch of doorways. So through those doors, they would hold some of these wild animals, for example, and some of the gladiators would be there, possibly connecting over to a gladiator school where they trained these men for fighting. A lot of times these gladiators were people who were captured from a conquered land and forced to come here. And if they were strong and brave enough, they might be able to win a few times, and then they would end up being, it's possible that they could win their freedom. They'd end up making more money, but most of them were just forced to go out there and fight, and then they'd end up dying right in front of all of these thousands of people's eyes. And it's just terrible that all these people just were sitting there and watching it, but it was pretty normal for them at the time. And it was seen as, just basically giving them a chance to fight for their lives. So Linus meets the gladiators. Now, Linus was very sure of two things. He was very sure he was lost. He was also very sure that he wanted to get out of the underground passages. Just then, he heard a low growling sound. It was a sound that a large animal might make. And as we know, there could be a lion or tiger right around his shoulder. That's where, those were kept in the Coliseum. This is really cool. This is what the inside of the Coliseum is like. There's that awning that stretches over, providing shade for the seats underneath. You can see all of the stories of this Coliseum and some of the stairways. You can not see it super well. This gets just fuzzy the further I get in. But there would be stairwells that bring you up to a higher level of the Coliseum, and it's angled out so that everybody can still see down below. Now, Linus held his breath until he heard the sound again. This time, it was louder, much louder. He was sure it was a very large animal. Linus ran back down the dark passageway. He didn't know he could run so fast. He kept running until he saw a stairway. At the top of the stairway, he saw the sky. A moment later, Linus was blinking at the bright sunlight in a sand-covered arena. He looked around. He was surrounded by fierce-looking warriors. They were wearing helmets and carrying swords. They were covered with sweat and dust. They were looking at him. Someone shouted, "Get that boy!" Linus ran down the stairs and back into the dark passageway. Sounds a lot better to be in a dark passageway right now. He kept running. Meanwhile, Lucia saw Nikos at the top of the Coliseum. He was delivering Grandfather's message to the naval commander. A moment later, the great awning began to unroll. Lucia felt better. Soon, the sailors would help find Linus, and she could stop worrying. Suddenly, Linus ran through a doorway on the other side of the arena. He kept running until he reached his grandfather. He hugged him and would not let go. Linus was very pale. "I'm glad you could join us, boy. We were just going to explore the underground chambers and visit the gladiator school," Grandfather teased. Grandfather smiled and said, "Lucia, as much as I love this arena, I never come to the gladiator contests or the wild animal fights. I don't like killing, even though many Romans do. I'd rather watch the chariot races at the Circus Maximus," which we will see next. So all of these people are watching the gladiator fight off wild animals. It says, unlike many Romans, he did not like these wild animal fights, though. He doesn't like to see people being killed right in front of him. "So would I, Grandfather," said Linus. "This place scares me. Could we leave here, please, right now?" "We will wait here for Nikos," said Grandfather. "While we are waiting, think of a special way to thank him for climbing to the top of the Coliseum to help find you. You will also tell your sister you are sorry." Grandfather signaled to Nikos and pointed to Linus. Nikos spoke to the commander. The naval commander saluted the senator. Nikos started the long walk back down. By the way, this Coliseum still stands today, so you'll see some pictures and video footage of some of these buildings, including, yes, the Coliseum is not in the condition that it once was, but they've kept it in fairly good condition so that people can visit there when they go to Rome. And it's only there for tourist purposes now for people to go and see what it was like. So it's been thousands of years, but it's still there. Or over 1,000 years. Now let's see the Circus Maximus, which is the place where they held chariot races. Now on the way to the Circus Maximus, Nikos carried Linus on his shoulders, and Lucia held her grandfather's hand. It was a beautiful day, but the streets were almost empty. "Where is everyone?" asked Lucia. At that moment, a great roar filled the air. It was a lot like thunder. Another great roar sounded, even louder than the first one. Grandfather laughed. "I'm certain that not everyone in Rome is in the Circus Maximus, but the Circus Maximus can seat 250,000 people. Wow. That is larger than almost any arena that's around today, and this is over 1,000 years ago. It is much larger than the Coliseum with a huge oval racetrack. The chariot races are the most exciting show in Rome. They race 12 chariots, each pulled by 4 fast horses. The racetrack is a dangerous place. The drivers and the horses must be very well trained. Even so, terrible accidents can happen." Grandfather looked at Nikos. "Well, it's time to watch the races. Are you ready?" Nikos was so excited he could hardly speak. So there are those chariot races. With this, it is not necessarily the case that people would get injured or killed, but it was possible because it was a dangerous sport. But these people, I think, chose to be chariot racers. Cheering them on. Oh, I forgot that was the end of it. Okay, I am going to see just a moment. We can look at some pictures of Coliseum and Circus Maximus, but showing that it is temporarily closed because of COVID. Okay, here are some pictures of it today. So several stories still, and this is a photograph that would be fairly recent, in the last 10 or 20 years, people going to visit. So if you go to Rome, you actually could tour the Coliseum. And down here is where they had, they actually had all those chambers, but also they had water areas where they would like flood it and fill the Coliseum with water creatures as an alternative to like the lions and tigers or gladiators fighting each other. So it's really innovative. And let's see. Yep, there it is. So these are all recent photographs. So this has been up for nearly 2,000 years. Okay, now back over to our book for a second. Let me see if I can get the Circus Maximus up. There's not as many ruins, the Circus Maximus, that this arena, they do have parts of it still around today, mainly like just a big field to show where it was. But this is a drawing of what it would have looked like, huge, long racetrack. Wow. Can you imagine? Look at this, basically the size of a town, and it's just an arena. And if you're way over here, you only get to see a chariot passing every so often. There's no chance you could see all all the way down over here. Really interesting. This might be an awning as well, and those are probably the most expensive seats where people who were patricians in society, maybe senators, would have those special seats that actually have covering. That's pretty incredible. So, but people only are able to have kind of good guesses as to the size and location of this, because there aren't as very specific ruins that there are for the Coliseum. Okay, well, that is all for now. There is going to be a little writing assignment that you'll do on Gladiators, but I'm going to have that as a separate little assignment. There is a Aesop's fable all about a specific gladiator who encounters a lion, as you saw in those pictures. So you'll read about that and write a little story based off of it. But this is all for now, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.